India, a land of picturesque beauty with a population of over 1.3 billion. A land where people of different religions, beliefs, different attires and different cuisines stay together, celebrating all the festivals. Despite the differences, our India is united through diversity. A land where its people are like different beads joined together by an invisible string of love, kindness and humanity. To sum up, our incredible India is a land of art, colors and craftsmanship. Maati Ke Rang, the colors of India. As the name suggests, this program is an endeavor to introduce you various unique and unseen aspects, colors and talents of India. Through this program, we bring to you a series of documentaries from the Ministry of Culture that will take you on an amazing journey of exploring our incredible India's rich, varied and colorful culture and heritage. Pablo Picasso very correctly said that art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life. Time and again, India has produced some of the greatest personalities who have proved their mettle in their respective fields and made India truly proud. One such name is of Padma Vibhushan Maqbool Fida Hussain. One of India's most prolific and legendary painters, Hussein's canvases with densely laden, visible brush strokes rendered in a bright, opulent palette express his personal and subjective emotions. Hussein's name was and still is synonymous with modern Indian art, for no other Indian artist till present day popularized Indian art within the country or internationally as Hussain did. Forbes magazine described him as the Picasso of India. 17 September marks to be Hussein's birthday. We now take you on his journey.
All my life, I was on the road because my mother died when I was 1.5 years old. So I never saw what you call the lap of my mother, that comfort, that feeling. So since the age of very early, I used to go home only to eat and sleep, and nothing. So all the time I'm on the road. So and then for the last 60 years as an artist, I was roaming around the world. I never stayed at one place. I don't have a single studio anywhere. I just take out the material in the hotel room, in friends' places, I just paint. I'm like a folk painter. Yeah. The thing is because my visual memory is so, God has given me that gift. You know, the moment I see something, I have like a horse, you know, when horse, when goes to one track, then he remembers all his life. You don't have to guide him. The same way here. So I have the horse memory. So the thing which I see, very seldom I forget. But the thing which I listen or I read, it wipes out. It was in Indore, a small town in the central part of India, where I spent up to my entire childhood, up to the age of 19. So there, when I was 6-year-old, I had to scribble, do all the time, scribbling, making, because the human faces used to haunt me. Any human face, So I used to, in the newspaper, magazine, all the faces, human faces, not necessarily of celebrity or star, but any common. So I used to cut it and keep it with me. By 12 years, I was painting portraits. And I remember at the age of 14 or 15, I happened to see a film in Indore. That was a Rembrandt, a life on Rembrandt. It was a Hollywood film and enacted by Charles Lawton, the character actor. So that, I think, that moved me so much. You know. So then I said, there's nothing in my life except painting. At that time, there was one painter in Indore who was a known painter, Bendre, who was a teacher and all that. So I asked him to go and tell my father that I really am so much involved in painting. I just please let me do this. I don't want to do anything. So and imagine, because coming from a middle class, at that time, if you are an artist, that means you are good for nothing. So unless you are born and in that society where you are close to the Maharaja and the Raja, so that you can paint portraits. So there is no way. So everybody was against. But somehow or other, my father agreed and okay, all right, you give up the shit. And that day was that was the day of my freedom, my spirit. And that was at the age of 17, 16. Then I moved to Bombay. I was doing signboards, cinema hoarding. But in 1941, I met an old lady who helped me, because I used to sleep just here and there. I had no room, no something. So she said, why don't you come at least have meals with us, so you'll get good food, healthy food. And she was poor, so it will help me also. So the first time I felt, at that time I was 30 years old. So I felt that there is somebody who behaved like a mother. So within 20 days, I didn't meet her daughter, but I know she. I decided to marry her without meeting her, because what her mother done to me, I said, this I'll just say. She had no money, I had no money, and many discouraged her. My mother is, you are giving your girl to a man who has no house, nothing. But she also insisted, no, my daughter will be married to me. So that's how I married. When I got married, so there were some people around. They said, now you are married, you must have at least any income, and sure income every month. Because now you have family, you have a house. So I had to take up a job.
We were about 8 of us living in this apartment, one-room apartment, from my parents and my eldest brother Shafat, the second eldest brother Shamshad. The third brother, unfortunately, he passed away before Raisa came in. Raisa was born, and Raisa and myself, and then Akila. We all stayed in this one apartment. I think my father moved in around 41. I think it is around 41, around roughly. And we were here till 1960, March 1960. Then we moved to another place from here. Till then, the whole family stayed. This was a one-room apartment, which was the best thing because the whole family was always together.
He was never the type who stayed home. Even when we had no money, he was always out in the world. So for me, he was doing a job like every normal father, going out in the morning and coming back in the evening. Sometimes we'd see a colored canvas in the house. We didn't even know if it was canvas. So I didn't know he was a painter till very late.
So I had to take up a job. And that job was in a furniture shop where they were making nursery rhymes. I was painting on the furniture nursery rhymes and designing toys. And I introduced so many new ideas, so I became known. And in Bombay in 1947, when I was about to quit this, and enter the art world, there was an offer. At that point, without any hope, what is going to happen when I enter the art world, knowing nobody, so I just plunged. I gave up everything. No, I don't want. This is the time. At that time, I was almost 40. So that is the beginning.
In the mid-40s, but in 1947, a group got formed called the Progressive Artists Group. And this consisted originally of 6 artists. There was Souza, Hussain, Raza, then Ara, Bakre, and Gari. And later on, of course, Krishan Khanna joined the group, Mohan Samant, and Akbar Padamsi and Tayyab Mehta were very closely associated with them. So was Ram Kumar. This group declared in its first exhibition that they were against the style taught by the College of Art, the J.J. College of Art, and they were also against the earlier schools like the Bengal school, which was promoting a revivalistic form of Indian art.
When I joined the Progressive Artists Group, before that I used to paint like an impressionist. At that time, you know, what you call, almost it was, École de Paris was in vogue. If you are an artist, you have to be like paint like a French artist, you know. Yeah. With the pipe in your mouth, so, an easel, all the, these are the, then you look like an artist. And the berry cap. so I think when I entered, when I became the member, at that time I was conscious. What is, because and it so happened it was parallel to the Indian independence. We got the independence in 1947. And 1947, the first time I exhibited in Bombay. Mind you, I was there in Bombay for 18 years. I never exhibited. I used to go see all the exhibitions, Bombay Art Society. Even at that time, the Amrita Shergill was like a princess. So I've seen all those works. And even this Raza, Souza, they were there, but I never met them. I saw their work. But at that time, I was very shy. And because I came from a classical background, I knew the what you call the Sanskrit, the Persian, the Urdu. But in English, I was very weak. I picked up later, when I joined the Progressive Artists, and to live in Bombay, you have to speak English. So then, with a vengeance, I studied English. There was another movement at that time, realism, Royal Academy School of Art. So, because all the colleges and schools in India were headed by British professor, and they used to teach the human form study from the Greek sculpture, Apollo and Venus and all. That's why I said, why? Because we have already gone beyond reality in the past, thousands of years back. So why to go back again there? I'm not condemning what the West has done. It is great, but it's not relevant to our culture. So that was my very strong, stand, right from the beginning. This was the purpose of the Progressive Artists Group. It was just 3 years of our span. But in 3 years, we sowed the seeds of revolution. I'm using the word we here, because it's not me alone. There were a group of painters consciously working on this, how to evolve a language of our own, visual language. I still think our leader was Souza, because he was a brilliant mind, and he was he was leading this thing in early stages, though luckily we didn't form what you call a union. It's like because in our own way we are totally different with each other. So we are free, not that I should, what Suza says or what Akbar says or what Gaidan is doing. We were two poles apart. We were fighting there within ourselves. But the general fight, what you call, which was focused on this, how to change the language of Indian contemporary.
Now, this generation of artists who were later to become very important began in a very small way, but in a very interesting way. They would meet frequently, they would talk amongst themselves, they would discuss which direction art should take. And it was as a result of all these very intense discussions that the artists began to bring up works which were to be very important for the history of art.
But from time to time, we used to meet, we have shows together. Which is very rare, which has never happened in the West or anywhere. The people of same profession, they are tied together for 50, 60 years. Nowhere it has happened. This is a rare phenomenon.
He was very much part of the progressive group. He grew up from within the terms of Indian progressive artists and their modernist agendas. But very quickly he struck out on his own and created his own agenda. So by the 1950s, he was aligning himself with the nation in a way that none of his other colleagues were. They were consciously internationalists. Hussain was an internationalist insofar as he was a sworn modernist, but he was determinedly and conspicuously situated in what he defined as the Indian nation. He chose to be a citizen artist of India.
Because I'm an Indian painter, so all my paintings are joy. It's a celebration of life. Now let me talk about how I evolved my my metaphor for the images which is there in the 5,000 years of Indian culture. So I just wanted to filter these things through my process of creativity. I pick up three major points when I decided to evolve a new image of Indian contemporary art, and especially I was concerned about the female form.
So to him, the womanhood was almost like a divine state. He always kept them in a huge pedestal, and he gave I think the kind of respect that he gave through his own paintings and through his writings was what womanhood really means in the Indian context.
The female form, because it was, first of all, because I lost my mother when I was 1.5 years old, and she never got herself photographed, so I don't know how she looked like. But that is the greatest, what you call, void in your life when you are not seeing the mother.
To him, the human figure, not as an anatomy, but also as one which was very, very different from the Western figure.
entire nature, entire physical world is nothing but structure. So without action, if there is no structure, that form will never exist. It will perish. So this is the key of anything you see visual. So I studied, I went to Madras, I did hundreds of drawings based on those Chola bronzes to go to the root of the structure. I was not concerned whether this image of a Shiva or a Parvati or anything, or even a lamp. But I was thinking, what is the basic structure? Then I went to Khajuraho and Mahabalipuram. There I did. This was a very planned thing. I sat there, though I was making a sketch of that, but not exactly what was there. So I was trying to find the inner structure of that sculpture. So I devoid of all those ornaments and frills, and I removed that. I got the basic lines of the hips, of the shoulder, of the neck. In the male form, I saw the triangle. I just saw the triangle. Because that posture of Buddha, but that is the complete, what you call, when it is a perfect form, it is triangle. Triangle is a complete. But then you go to the female form. There you break the three bhanga. The three breaks in a woman's posture, whether she is walking or sitting or movement, that movement is there. So, and all those three, if the hip, the angle of the hip, angle of the shoulder and the neck is always, they are never parallel. So that means there is no static movement. Even when she is standing, it's like this. So that is the grace, what you call. And another reason why of all this, because the strong element of dance, which thousands of years evolved, the Bharatanatyam, the Kathakji, all this classical form of dancing, the Kathak. So those are the, what you could, the language of the body language. So with the body language and the gesture of your fingers, you tell a story, which is the essence of visual arts. You see, with the form you say it. Then for color, I said color, because in India the color is so sensuous, because when a woman is going to get married, she is before the night of the marriage, she is soaked into some incense, some herbal. It is yellow, which the whole day he remain in that. So when she takes a bath, the entire body is fragrance, and that fragrance is not like a flower. That fragrance which evokes passion, it evokes what you call what you call sensuousness, evokes sex, which is the essential part. And the same way, a man also like that. Then again you go, even the color, there is a festival color, the Holi. So, and it's a very sacred festival. So this way the color is very sensual and a very essential part, we say essential philosophy of Indian culture. It's not decoration, So we had very few, not a tradition of paintings, except few Ajanta, and it's mostly sculpture. But in painting, it is the miniature. So in miniature, all these Mughal or Rajput and They are more very sophisticated color, because it belonged to the king and of the court painter. So the color has to be very pleasing. You have to please your master or the king. So they use those very soft and that color, lyrical color. But when you go to the mountains, the Pahadi, Basholi, that there the ruggedness of the sensuousness of color is there, you know. So almost it evokes, so much passion, so much fire in you. So that's why I chose the color of Bahari paintings, the Basholi. Now the third element. I wanted to communicate to the man. So I must have an element which I can easily communicate. So, I didn't want to become the esoteric or very cerebral intellectual painter. Though I understand and I have so much respect all those wise men of art, but I want to remain a very simple, like a folk. So I chose the folk element, so that my painting, even the common man can easily understand. And I'll give you a very interesting example. You just put an orange color on a piece of stone, and to show it to any villager, he says it's Hanuman. This is the what you call the power of color. This is power of color.